New to podcasting? This video is for you. I'll show you step by step how to start podcasting now. Plus, watch to the end where I'll give you a bonus tip on how to get your podcast up online on YouTube and use some really cool AI tools to improve your show even further. Let's get started. Diving in, well, first of all, how are you going to record yourself and your guests? I suggest picking an audio editor, and for podcast editing, if you're starting for free, Audacity is a great place to get going. Because it's free, it's open source, and the team behind it are really working hard to improve it every single day. What about if you want remote guests, though? You want to record someone on the other side of the world? Well, there's some great options for that. You can use Riverside.fm, one of the favorites of mine. I'll link all of these resources in the links down below, by the way. There, you can not only record audio, but also video online and get your tracks delivered. Or you can use something like Adobe Podcast. It's currently in beta. You can sign up for access. And here, I can just hit record. Hello, this is Mike Russell, and I am recording. I'm really interested to see how this works. When I stop, it's going to save my audio. It's going to actually transcribe this audio into text that I can edit as a document. I can add filters such as enhancing my voice and so much more. Plus, music is readily available here from many different collections, so I can insert it straight into my podcast. So if you want to really get started easily, then use the invite button to invite guests by email to join you here. See, the transcription is seamless. Then this is a really easy way to get started. More on tools later on, but let's start off with Audacity. And again, if your audio setup is all correct here, you can do your playback device and your recording device. Notice I'm using a Universal Audio Thunderbolt to record. That's my audio interface. And for playback, I've got a Rodecaster Pro 2. If I hit record, hello, this is Mike, just a quick test recording. You'll see I get like a quick recording of my voice there on audio track 1. But most of you who are starting with podcasting, you might want to use something simple like a USB microphone. Here is a Beyerdynamic Fox. I really like this one. It's easy to plug in using a very simple USB cable. USB cable looks like that, and that means I don't have to worry about audio interfaces or anything scary like that. I can literally put this USB cable in the back of the microphone, and then the microphone comes to life. You'll see there's an orange light that comes on the front of the Beyerdynamic Fox. This is really great. Now this is ready to go. I'd love to get it in front of me, if I can. So I suggest using a professional microphone stand, but in lieu of that, I'll use a Super Mario mystery block. Microphone is plugged in, so I'll just go to the audio setup here, recording device, and look for the Fox. That's the USB mic that I just plugged in. So now I've set that as my recording device. This will be picking up my voice. Hello, this is Mike Russell, and welcome to my podcast episode recording on the Beyerdynamic Fox USB microphone. Stop that, and providing I've set up my playback device, which I have done, this is coming through my Rodecaster to you on the YouTube video right now. So if I play this back, let's have a listen. Hello, this is Mike Russell, and welcome to my podcast episode recording on the Beyerdynamic Fox USB microphone. Now, I can make a few improvements to that, so let's go ahead and do that. I'll move this Beyerdynamic Fox out the way now for the rest of the tutorial and my lovely Mario block. And you can easily select everything here, go into effect, and we can maybe add some compression, bit of compressor, set very lightly, threshold -20, noise floor -40, ratio maybe 3:1, or actually maybe even 2:1, I would say. Attack and release as quick as possible, apply, and look at how it evens out the levels on your recording. So that's the first thing you can do with ease inside Audacity to get a more consistent sound. Hello, this is Mike Russell, and welcome to my podcast episode. So that's working really well, and it's improved the sound already coming from a USB microphone. So it's very simple and easy to get started recording either in Audacity or the software of your choice. But how about importing a show you recorded on, say, Riverside or Adobe Podcast, and you want to edit that? Well, I'm going to cross out. So I cross out my waveform there, and I've actually got some wonderful downloads here. I've got Jason and Mike. So Jason is my guest, and Mike, that's me. I've also got a music bed that I'm going to load in later. I'm actually going to drag and drop Jason and Mike into Audacity, and you'll see right there, boom, it does it. And you see Mike is down here, Jason's up here. Now, if I want to move it so that Mike, the host, is on top, I can absolutely easily do that, just drag and drop that at the top. So now my host is at the top and my guest is down at the bottom. I might go ahead and go into the effect menu for both of these, and I probably want to go ahead and use the volume and compression and normalize each track so they're just a little bit louder. Can leave this all as default, that's absolutely fine. It'll make my track louder, select Jason's track, same thing, effect, volume and compression, normalize, and then I can see much more clearly the audio that I'm working with there. Really easy. So if I want to make some clear edits to the content, what I can actually do is I can go ahead, and it's probably a good idea here to start zooming in and looking at exactly what I'm doing. So I can use the plus magnifying glass to really get in and get an idea of how the podcast sounds. For Full Edit Pro, is that right? Okay, so you can hear my guest there is coughing and kind of breathing in. So what I'm going to do is delete all of his audio there. Now you notice it budges up, which is kind of no good. So I need to actually delete this, but keep it locked in time if I can. So what I'm going to advise you to do here is actually split the clip first before you delete, because of course if you delete, it's budging things over and you don't want that. To split, right click and go to split clip, or you can use Command or Control I on your keyboard. That puts a nice split there. I can now double click and select all of this audio and delete it, and you'll hear it stays in time.
Is that right?
That is absolutely right.
There we go, and I can do the same over here. So I'm going to select all of the silence when my guest is speaking, Command or Control I, and then we'll delete that little segment there. Now, obviously, I can then select other bits and nudge it over a bit to tighten up that edit.
Is that right?
That is absolutely right.
And we get a faster transition there into my guest speaking. So all really helpful stuff. Now, I also might want to go ahead and add an intro and outro to this podcast, a bit of music. So I'm actually going to select my podcast so far, nudge it over a bit, and then drag in my music bed. Again, it's here in my downloads folder. I've already got it. I'm going to drag and drop it into Audacity, and you'll notice it really cleanly just drops it onto another track for me. And then again, I can audition that. I can press plus to zoom in, and I'm not quite zooming to where I want, so I'll zoom out, move my cursor along here, plus in on that, and then you'll see probably I want to just move that audio across a little bit. There we go, and then we'll play this. My guest today is Jason Levine. Now you'll notice that I'm quite drowned out by the music there, so if I want to go ahead and make some changes to the volume, it's really easy to do it just like this. First of all, I'll need to change my selection tool from the selection tool to the envelope tool, and that will actually give me the ability to start drawing on fades to my music bed. So I've clicked and placed one point, and I'll place the second point and fade the music down there. Let's listen to that. My guest today is Jason. Still a little loud in the mix, so I'm going to fade that down even more by using that envelope tool. My guest today is Jason Levine, the principal worldwide evangelist. And again, I could probably go down even further, so let's do so. My guest today is Jason Levine, the principal worldwide evangelist. And then eventually I'm going to want to fade this out, so I'll place more points and fade it until the music is completely faded out. I can make that fade a long or a short fade like that. And then when I've done that, you'll hear the music just fades away as the podcast gets going. My guest today is Jason Levine, the principal worldwide evangelist for Adobe. He travels the globe, inspiring and educating on Adobe Creative Cloud. So that is really cool. I'm really happy with what I've got so far. Now, if I want to go ahead and maybe make my track a little bit louder, I can see that the audio here is not quite as loud as Jason's speech, which is nice and consistent in volume. Again, just like I was showing you at the start, I would add a compressor to everything that's on my track. So let's go ahead and select all of the audio on my track. Let's do it from start to finish here. And I'm just going to add a little bit of compression under Effect, Volume and Compression, and we'll go to the compressor here. And again, I'll leave the settings I had, maybe nudging the ratio up a little bit to give a harder amount of compression. Apply it, and look at how it will suddenly increase the volume levels of my audio, and they pretty much match my guest now. So if we then zoom back into this and have a listen, let's have a listen right from the start. Let's zoom in here and play from the very start. Let's hear. My guest today is Jason Levine, the principal worldwide evangelist for Adobe. He travels the globe, centrillium for Cool Edit Pro. Is that right?
That is absolutely right.
So that's absolutely fantastic. So far in this session, we have managed to plug in our USB microphone, record it, use external tools to record our guests. We've loaded audio in, made some clean edits. We've done a bit of compression as well, getting the volumes at the same level, put in music as well, intros, outros, and faded them in and out. So all of that is absolutely possible. Now, if we zoom out and look at the overall podcast, if we're happy with that, we'll go to File, and we'll actually want to then export it. We won't want to save the project. If we want to come back and edit this later in Audacity, we would save the project, and we'd save that as something that will save all our files in the mix here, and we can make little tweaks later on. So we can call it json.aup3. This can only be opened by Audacity. I'm going to put it over here in my downloads folder and save. Now, that's not an audio file. That is just a file that lets me come back into Audacity and access all these audio files and make further edits if I need to. But if I'm happy, I'm ready to upload it as a podcast. File, export as MP3. And then we'll call it json.mp3, or we might call it MRC 001. It's MRC episode 1. It's going into my downloads folder. It is indeed an MP3 file. And this is really important where we choose the format options. So we are going to want a constant bitrate mode. And I would suggest going for as high as you can in terms of quality. 320 is good. But actually, in general, most podcasts tend to be 128, and that's fine. And speech sometimes go all the way down to 56. Wouldn't advise that. It's a little low quality. 64 is a good compromise. But if you said to me, Mike, I just want the ultimate settings that most people use, constant 128 kilobits per second, and the channel mode, important, especially as some hosts actually require it, joint stereo is what you want to go for, unless, of course, you're exporting a mono podcast. Click Save, and they will be mixed down as one stereo file. That's what you want. You can tick to say, don't show me that again. Click OK, and then you can even type in your metadata here. So you can type in your artist name, that will be me. You can do the track title, so you can actually rename that and say interview with Jason. And you can go ahead and put more metadata in here that will appear later on in your listener's podcast app of choice. Click OK, and that's it. It's exporting your MP3 file, ready to upload. It's as simple as that. But that's not everything. There is more. I've already shown you Riverside and Adobe Podcast for recording, but how about getting your video up onto YouTube? inVideo is a great tool, and we use it here at MRC to quickly add images and stock photos and things like that to podcast audio. It'll throw you out a video and you can upload that easily to YouTube. Pretty super intuitive to use. But hang on, you say, well, what about getting pictures or maybe artwork for my podcast? Well, Midjourney is a great AI tool. I've been using this loads, and you can give it a prompt. It works inside a Discord. You just type in /imagine, like so, and then type a prompt. So podcast, cover art, inspirational podcast, nature, trees, happy vibes, and waterfall. Okay, and there you go, 4 options. I actually think those options are really good. As you can see, unique artwork generated by the AI. Bit of text down here. This is kind of holding text. What you can do is you can import this into a photo editor like Photoshop or something else, and you can then change that text out. Particularly here, this is really nice and clean. There's an image and then just a block down here where you could change that text and add the name of your podcast to then be uploaded. So a super cool tool. And of course, the tool that everyone's using, ChatGPT, will help you generate episode titles. So generate me 5 possible podcast episode titles for a show about audio editing with Adobe expert Jason. This is for beginners. And there you go. So easy. Introduction to audio editing, a beginner's guide with Adobe expert Jason, mastering basic audio editing techniques, unleashing the power of Adobe Audition, from raw to polished, transforming your recordings with Adobe and Jason's expertise, solving common audio editing challenges, insights and solutions for beginners with Adobe expert Jason. And if you like one, then you might say, actually, I love the polished one. So I like option 4, but make it shorter. Like that. And then you just send that to ChatGPT and it's going to give me a shorter version, transforming your recordings with Adobe, beginner's guide with Jason. Okay, I didn't really use the polished. I like the polished, but never mind. I can iterate on that and make my own title. AI is helping me to get there. So in combination with AI, some fantastic tools for making video and recording your remote guests online and even editing text transcripts, and also the ability to work fully in Audacity for free. Podcast editing is really easy. It doesn't have to be complicated, and you can start with a USB microphone like this one and make some really good stuff. Let me know what you're making in the comments down below, and if you want to continue your podcast editing journey, I suggest you watch the video on your screen right now, as I've got so much more on my channel all about editing audio and particularly making a great sounding podcast.